On December 17th, Pokémon TCG Pocket is going to release its first mini set called Mythical Island. And today we're going to be talking about how those cards are going to impact the metagame. Hey everyone, my name is DuckDad, and let's dive into some of the cards we have here. Some of them, we're not really going to be able to tell a whole lot about them right now just because we don't have the evolved form, so it's very hard to judge a lot of these cards just on their basics. Like Snivy, which is a 70 HP basic with a Vine Whip attack for 40 damage, a Grass and a Colorless, 1 retreat cost, and we also have Morlul with a 60 HP and does 20 damage with a Ram attack. Again, these are going to be kind of hard to tell. We don't really have the Shiinotic, we don't have the Superior, so I can't really talk too much about it. But our first impactful card is going to be Mew EX. This is the first Mew EX we have in the TCG Pocket game, and it has Psy Shot for a Psychic. It does 20 damage, and it also has a really interesting attack called Genome Hacking for 3 colorless. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. Pretty interesting. The fact that it's colorless means that you can put this in really any deck you want to put it in. Very splashable card, and I like to see that in the metagame right now. I think there are a lot of areas where you could put this into a deck and then counter something like a Mewtwo EX. I think it'd be really interesting actually if you add this Mew EX in a lot of Mewtwo EX decks. Since it's only 3 energy, it is a perfect way to counter an opposing Mewtwo EX. Since you only need 3 energy instead of the 4 energy needed to actually use Mewtwo's attack. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the future. Also, it's 130 HP, pretty nice. I feel like there's not like a lot that can take it out except maybe Charizard and Blastoise and Mewtwo EX, but I like this very splashable card. We have a supporter card called Blue. During your opponent's next turn, all of your Pokemon take -10 damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. I don't think that'll be too impactful in the metagame. Taking -10 damage is not that great in my opinion right now. I would much rather just use a potion to heal up afterwards. I could see it being used in Melmetal decks. It's already taking -20 from Melmetal's ability, so if you add this on top, you're doing -30. It seems kind of good, but it is a very niche card, and I don't really expect to see it a whole lot in the metagame, but well, I guess only time will tell. Vaporeon. This is a stage 1 water type Pokemon with 120 HP. It has the washout ability, which is very interesting, and I think this is the first time we're actually seeing this in the TCG Pocket game. We already have a lot of cards that are very similar to this in the regular TCG. It says, as often as you like during your turn, you may move a water energy from one of your bench water Pokemon to your active water Pokemon. So this is pretty interesting. You could actually use Misty on one of your bench Pokemon, get it powered up, and then you can just move all of that energy onto your active Pokemon. Vaporeon for a water colorless, it has Wave Splash for 60 damage. Not the most impactful move, but this would be a very interesting way to power up something like Articuno EX or any Starmie EX or maybe any other water type EX Pokemon that are going to be released in the upcoming set. I think this will be a good card in the current metagame, and I think it'll be good in the future as well. Up next, Dedenne. I think this card is going to be a great addition to Pikachu EX. That deck is already pretty strong, and this just makes it a lot better in my opinion. It is only 60 HP, a lightning type Pokemon, and it has the Thunder Shock attack, does 10 damage for 1 lightning. It says flip a coin if heads, your opponent's Pokemon is now paralyzed. Pretty powerful. We have the Pincurchin with kind of the same ability, or same attack, but now it's only in a basic Pokemon that only requires 1 lightning energy. That seems pretty strong to me. And I think this is going to be a staple in Pikachu EX decks from here on out. Until we find a better Pokemon, maybe something with a higher HP. But right now, this seems like a very good card to put into your Pikachu EX deck. Execute for 50 HP, and it has the Growth Spurt attack. Take a grass energy from your energy zone and attach it to this Pokemon. This card it's very odd in my opinion. Because we already have a Execute card, and Executor EX only requires 1 grass energy to attack. So maybe we'll get a new Executor that does more damage based on how much energy is attached to it. But as it stands right now, I don't think it's really worth it to use this Execute. I think you're just better off using the other one. It's the same amount of HP, and you do damage instead of just attaching energy from your energy zone. Delmise. Delmise is a 100 HP basic grass-type Pokemon with Energy Whip, 20 plus. If this Pokemon has at least 3 extra grass energy attached, this attack does 70 more damage. This is a Grass Lapras. That's what this is. And I don't know how I feel about it, really, because we already have a lot of Executor EX, for example. We have that card, and it is a very low-cost attacker. I don't really know if it's necessary to have something like Delmise. It's a lot of energy that you have to attach to Delmise in order to do 90 damage. So this doesn't seem that powerful as it currently stands. Aerodactyl EX. This is a 140 HP Stage 1 Fighting type Pokemon with the ability Primeval Lull. Your opponent's opponents can't play any Pokemon from their hand to evolve their active Pokemon, and it has a attack called Land Crush that does 80 damage for a fighting and a colorless. Now I think this is a really interesting card. I don't know if it's that good right now in the metagame, but I think it could be really good going forward. The fact that it's just your opponent's active Pokemon makes it a lot worse in my opinion. If it was you can't evolve any Pokemon, then I think this card would be busted. But the fact that it is only the active Pokemon makes it just a little less in my opinion. Because now if you want to play against something like Mewtwo EX, they can still evolve their Gardevoir on the bench, and there's a very easy workaround. Even if you have a Pokemon in your active spot and you want to evolve it, you can just retreat it and then evolve it on your bench, and now you can bring it up the next turn. So I don't know, it's not that great right now, but I could see it being better in the future. Also, the fact that it's weak to lightning doesn't seem that great to me. If I want to play a fighting type deck, I want it to be a card that is not weak to Pikachu EX, right? And the fact that I'm getting hit for weakness by Pikachu EX doesn't feel that great. I mean, you can't knock out Aerodactyl EX with Pikachu's attack. You're doing 90 plus 20. You could throw like a Giovanni on that as well, but you're not hitting that 140. Still feels really bad, and you're only doing 80 damage back, so it's not enough to knock out Pikachu. You're doing 100 when you consider weakness, so it just doesn't seem that great as an attacker. And I think you're probably better off with Marowak EX for an attacker or Primeape. But I think the ability has some utility, and I think it could be good in the future. Marshadow. This is a 80 HP fighting type Pokemon with a attack called Revenge, 40 plus damage for a fighting and a colorless. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, this attack does 60 more damage. Now this is a really cool card. We see this with other types of cards in the TCG for Pokemon. Rally Back is a very similar mechanic. You do more damage based on if your opponent takes knocks out one of your Pokemon turn prior. And so I think this will be really good in fighting type decks. It is, 2 energy, but I think it's nice because you can just keep this on your bench. You can keep powering it up, and then you can save it for, the end game. You bring it up against Pikachu EX, and then you're doing 100 damage plus weakness, and that's enough to knock out a Pikachu EX. So I think this will be pretty impactful. It's a good option for like a single prize deck. Larvesta, it's an 80 HP fire type basic Pokemon that has combustion. For a fire and a colorless, you can do 30 damage. We don't know what the Volcarona is going to do as right now, but I think this will be kind of cool. I'm very excited to see how the Volcarona plays and what kind of things it can do. The fact that this is an 80 HP basic kind of gives me some hope that the Volcarona will be a really good card, but I guess only time will tell. Magmar. This is another 80 HP fire type Pokemon with Fire Blast for 2 fire type energy, You can do 80 damage, and then you have to discard 2 fire energy from this Pokemon. So this is similar to the Ninetales, just a little worse. The Ninetales is 90 HP, and you only have to discard 1 energy from it. But I think this will be a good card to add in Blaine decks, and I think it's a card you can add like a 1/1 copy of. You can have one of the other Magmar that we currently have, and then you can add this Magmar as well. And I think this will be good as a closing Pokemon as well, because you can do 80 plus Blaine, you're doing 30 more damage, and I think that's a good amount to do. You know, it's another option if you don't have any Ninetales in your deck. So I personally would play this as like a 1/1, one for the other Magmar, one for this Magmar, and yeah, I'm excited to try it out. So for this card, you can't really see it, but it is a Pikachu. It is a basic Pikachu with 60 HP, lightning type Pokemon, and it does 10 times the amount of bench lightning Pokemon on your bench. So it is kind of like the baby form of Pikachu EX. You can only do 30 damage, so it's not a whole lot. And I think this card only requires 1 lightning energy, so that's nice, but I don't know. I don't think I would use this one. But, you know, I think there's an argument to be said about using this one over the other Pikachu that we have currently, the one with Gnaw, I believe. And yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't think this will be too impactful on the meta, though. This is Tauros, a basic Pokemon with 100 HP. It is a colorless Pokemon, and for 3 colorless, you can use Fighting Tackle for 40 plus. If your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon EX, this attack does 80 more damage. I've been waiting for a card like this to come into the game. This is going to be a very, very cool Pokemon, in my opinion, and I can't wait to use this in some of my decks. And also the fact that you can hit for exactly the amount that you need to do to Pikachu EX is very, very big. I think a lot of Pikachu EX decks currently are going to be countered by some of these cards. Not all of them. I think Pikachu EX is still very, very strong, but it seems like a lot of these cards are hitting exactly 120 or can hit very close to 120. So the game designers are definitely trying to target down Pikachu EX and make it less of a staple in the meta. And so I think this would be really cool. And, you know, 120, and you're only giving up 1 point as well. You know, your opponent can attack you, but that's just 1 point. They still have to take 2 other points. So pretty cool card. Very excited to use it. The only thing is that it requires 3 energy, so it can take a bit to work up there, but I still think it has a lot of utility in decks, and again, a very splashable card because it doesn't require any specific type of energy. We have another supporter with Leaf. Leaf says, during this turn, the retreat cost of your active Pokemon is 2 less. Again, I don't know how impactful this supporter can be. We already have X speed, and that is just an item card. There's no, no downside to really using it, besides not having it later. You could possibly add 1 copy of Leaf in your decks, especially with Pokemon that have a high retreat cost, like a lot of the Pokemon EX. But to me, again, this just feels a little lackluster. It doesn't do as much. If I want to put in a slot for a supporter card, I want it to be doing something very big for me. Whether that is drawing cards, whether that is using some sort of gusting effect, or if I'm increasing the amount of damage that I'm doing, that's kind of what I want a supporter card to do. This one, just retreating, or just, lowering the retreat costs, not really doing it for me. But, some people might like it in their EX for some of their Pokemon decks with EX Pokemon in it. And we have one other card. It wasn't on PokeBeach, but it was on Cerebi.net, so shout out to Cerebi Joe. This is Pokeflute, and it says that you can put a basic Pokemon from your opponent's trash onto your opponent's bench. Now this card, I think this one looks like the best card out of the set to me right now. It is very similar to a card in the TCG called Echoing Horn. You can put a basic Pokemon onto your bench. onto your opponent's bench, and then you can just use Sabrina to bring up that Pokemon and knock it out for game. So that is incredibly powerful to me. The fact that you can just, it denies your opponents from playing around Sabrina by not benching any Pokemon. Now you can just bench a Pokemon for them, use Sabrina, and then you win the game off of that. That just seems like a very busted card to me. And I think we're going to see this a lot in the metagame going forward. And there you have it. Those are all the cards coming out so far for Mythical Island. Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you think any of these are going to be insanely busted? Do you think I'm wrong about any of these? Let me know. I'm very curious to see what other people think about it. And hopefully we can talk a little bit more about the game once we actually have the rest of the cards in the set. So I will see you in the next video. Peace out.